Hi and welcome to Check Your Thread, a podcast about sewing more sustainably. My name's Zoe and I'm obsessed with sewing. I've been blogging about it for over 14 years and am the creator and host of the popular handmade wardrobe challenge Me Made May. But like many people, I've become increasingly concerned about the climate crisis and the way that my lifestyle contributes to it. So in this podcast, I'll be nerding out about making clothes whilst exploring how to minimise the negative impact that it may have. I really hope you'll join me in this journey. Are you good today? I very much hope so. I've been pretty productive since the last episode. I've been in planning mode, working out when to release the conversations that I have already recorded and approaching other people and lining up new conversations. Exciting. Speaking of recordings, just to let you know that you can hear me chat to previous guest Saskia Dafita on her podcast, A Smaller Life, again this week. The conversation covers a lot of ground, namely about creating a more sustainable foundation as someone, in this case Saskia, embarks on her sewing journey. It's episode 53 and you can find A Smaller Life on whatever app you're using to listen to this. Unless you're listening to this via the player on the Check Your Thread website, you can't listen to Saskia's podcast there. So have you been sewing anything this week? Since the last episode, I've been helping my daughter make a t-shirt for herself. As you may recall, one of my sewing goals for this year was to teach my kids some more sewing skills. It's been a really worthwhile endeavour, if slightly frustrating for both of us, but we made it, it's done. I also finished off a blouse project for myself and I started a bomber jacket for my husband and I started a knit top for myself. I've been really motivated to make recently, so I'm just riding that wave. So I have a sustainability related update / confession. Okay, so yonks and yonks ago, I mentioned in an intro that our front door is super drafty and you can see daylight around the edge even when it's closed. So my attempts to fix the issue using draft excluder tape failed because of the nature and position of the gap, but I vowed to get it sorted so that we'd stop losing so much heat from the hall. Well, we haven't, and we've been losing heat all winter long. We ended up bringing in a handy person to take a look at the issue, and he concluded that the gap has appeared because our front door is actually warped and bent. He applied a storm seal thing around the front, but it's made but all difference. Plus he unearthed a couple more issues with the front door surround, so now I'm thinking that the best option is to just get the whole door and surround replaced. Although that doesn't sound super sustainable. I feel it's one of those situations where you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. I think that getting rid of a big front door and a bunch of surrounding wood seems wasteful, but I think that replacing it and buying a new door and surround will be better in the long term if it keeps the heat in. Anyway, that was super boring, but something that's been on my mind, and I felt I needed to confess that I haven't solved an issue that I vowed to solve many months ago. So, there's no new patrons to thank this week, but I do want to thank 3 existing patrons, Vic, Caro and Els, who all recently very kindly upped the amount of support that they give each month. What a vote of support that is. Unless you're a first-time listener, you may have noticed that this podcast doesn't include ads, and that is something that I'm committed to. I want you to know that when I talk about something positively, it's because I genuinely think it's good. Also, because a lot of what I'm talking about on this podcast is about buying and consuming less stuff. So it'd be pretty disingenuous of me to then start talking about some amazing thread company or something because I've been paid to. But without advertising and without some handy trust fund or well-paying job to bankroll this whole endeavour, it comes down to listener support via Patreon to keep this podcast afloat. So if you appreciate and enjoy this podcast and are in a position to do so, please consider giving a small amount of support via Patreon. It would be gratefully received. Please head to patreon.com/checkyourthread to find out more and to sign up. Let's crack on with today's episode. This one had an unusually fast turnaround from initial contact to released episode. It's a conversation with an author and creator who's been on my radar for a long time, but I didn't think to approach her until her publisher made the introduction, and I'm so glad that they did. Linnea Larsson is an architect, author, artist, designer, creative, mum, and probably lots of other things, living in Sweden. If you're an Instagram user, you may already know her at Go Recreate feed, which is a very beautiful and inspiring feed about turning unwanted adult clothing into items for babies and kids. Her book was originally released in Swedish in 2018 and has just come out in English but has been retitled Restyle and Restitch for Little Ones. The story behind the book's initial inception is really interesting. As is so often the case, Linnea basically made the book that she wished she'd had to hand. Linnea was a super cool person and I enjoyed talking to her so much, so I know you're going to like this one. Quick note, in the episode I mention a maker that created an amazing boiler suit using the Merchant & Mills Thelma pattern and fabric from an unwanted tent. During the recording I couldn't remember the name, but I've since found it and it's a maker called Dita who is at thread.gathering on Instagram. I've included the link to their amazing version in the show notes, so head to checkyourthread.com for this and every episode's show notes. Okay, enjoy! Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, of course. I'm glad you asked me. Really happy. Thank you.
Right. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Can we please start with you introducing yourself by saying who you are, where you are, and what fills your days?
Okay, so I'm Linnea from Sweden. I'm in the west coast of Sweden in Gothenburg. I work as an architect all day long. And a mother, of course, I'm a mother and I wrote this book about how to turn your old pre-loved clothes into baby clothes. And I'm the owner of the Instagram account Go Recreate. And I have to say this when we start, I'm from Sweden, I speak a little bit of English, but it's really far from perfect. And I have to talk slow because every word seems to, I have to search for words in my brain. And when I prepared for this conversation, I thought that my peak in the English language was maybe like 10 years ago or something. But I will try to do my best today.
It's brilliant. Right. So I'm excited to speak to an architect. I don't think I've spoken to an architect for the podcast before. No. So obviously you are not afraid to explore creativity in different ways.
No. I'm a creative person and I love to express myself in any kind of way. I can't stop myself from like doing things with my hands, both in when I sew and when I paint and when I work as an architect. I love to work with colors and materials, and also concerning my architectural career, it's always been about the people, the normal human being, and like the things that are close to us, like the home, the environment around us, and the things you can touch, things you can sit on, and things you feel.
So at what point did you start sewing?
I started sewing when I was just a kid. My mom have a very big interest in sewing, so she taught me the sewing machine from like early age. I was 7 or something. Started with like sewing cushions for my bed and soft animals and stuff like that. But the older I got, I started to sew like Barbie clothes. I think I played and sewed Barbie clothes far too long. Maybe when I was 15, I still were sewing Barbie clothes. But my mom, she loves to sew and she is my big inspiration. I love her. She's fantastic. And I talk to her on phone every day.
Oh, lovely. She features in your book as well.
Yeah, she features in my book. She also did much of the practical, the things in the surrounding when you are making a book and having small children. I was on maternity leave, but still you have to have somebody close to you that can help you with holding the baby, making a lunch, or picking up my son from preschool or stuff like that. She also tests you. Do you call it that? She tested the patterns, so it worked, and she came with modifications and stuff like that. So she's been really helpful.
Amazing. She's like your assistant in making the book.
Yeah, I think so. She's been a big help. And many people ask, how could you make a book when you were on maternity leave? And I think I work long days. I were up at late in the evenings and went up early in the mornings. But I had this support from my mom and from my husband and my family. So I think it was a combination of people around me and my energy.
Yeah, I was thinking the same actually. How did you write a book in maternity leave?
Yeah.
So that's good to know that you had a team to help you.
I had a team to help me. Plus, I started when my son was born in 2013, and my daughter was born in 2016. I still were working on the book, and it came out in Sweden 2018, and now it's 2023. So I mean, it's a very long time to make a book.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think our kids must be exactly the same age, because my daughter was born in 2013 and my son was born in 2016.
Oh wow!
So that's funny.
That's a coincidence. Yeah,
that's nice. You obviously, your book is talking about using reclaimed materials, things that already exist in the world. So, why is that important to you?
Straight answer, but I just feel it. For me, it's obvious. We all have to think about what we consume and how much of carbon dioxide we use. And I think for me, it comes really natural to make things out of what we already have. I'm really against just buying new stuff. But this started actually both from the environmental issue, the climate change issue, but also from my interest in loving the clothes that I was sorting out my closet. And I couldn't throw away clothes with a lot of memories in it. In some clothes, I love the fabrics, the patterns, or the softness, or just the memories. I wore something for a long time when I was in an age that I want to remember, or it was on somebody else that I want to remember, or you know what I mean. So it's both from the interest in the climate change issue and also just the feeling of keeping what you have memories in.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah. Is using reclaimed material something that comes into your architectural design at all?
Yeah, of course. Nowadays, you have to be, if you're an architect, you have to consider how much carbon dioxide emissions is from all the buildings we make. So, and in general, I think many architects are really interested. So this branch where we can buy reclaimed materials, it's increasing day by day. And everybody like to get it into projects. But in fact, most of the projects we are making are still kind of the same way as it was before. But it's starting to change, and we are all aware of it. But in the end, since there are no demands on using reclaimed materials, there are the client that decides in the end, and therefore I think we suggest reclaimed materials, but it's not always the client would like to use it.
Interesting.
But in our branch, we know that the building industry is a big consumer of carbon dioxide. That's true.
Yeah.
Both while building it and also when using it in heating and cooling.
Yeah, so congratulations on releasing your book in English. So it was released in 2018 in Sweden under the name of Go Recreate. Yeah. And then it's coming out the week that this podcast comes out. It's going to be released in the UK, but it's called Restyle and Restitch for Little Ones, 30 Simple Projects from Pre-Loved Clothes. So for those of us that live in the UK, we haven't had a chance to look at the book before. Well, I have. I'm very lucky that I have a copy here. But so for those of us who haven't had a chance to look at it, what will we find inside?
You will find 30 patterns for a kind of easy project to make at home from pre-loved garments that you have worn or family members have worn, and you are going to give it away for charity. So that's what you find. I also think you find inspiration, not just for making the projects I have made patterns for in the book, but also for all kind of reuse. I think when I made this book, it was not that trendy to reuse and upcycle and do things like that. And now, a few years later, it's much more of something we all do. I think it's become much more trendy, or what you call it.
Yeah. So when you wrote the book, or when you started thinking about this, it wasn't something that so many people were talking about or doing. So how did the book come to exist then? How did it actually happen?
Yeah, that's a good question. But when I was pregnant with my first baby, I started to look around to see what can I sew for my baby. And when he came, I found out that I can just sew when he's asleep, and he sleeps like 1 hour at a time. So I thought, what is the easiest to sew? From what I got at home. That's how it started. And then I bought some books too with patterns. And I saw there is no books about how you are recycling fabrics and garments.
So then did you pitch the idea to a publisher, or did somebody see you on Instagram or something like that?
No, when I bought these books, I also felt when I were looking through the books from my work, I work a lot with computer and making presentations for different houses and stuff like that. It comes easy for me to work with the programs you have when you're making a book. So when I was looking in the books, I thought, I can do this. I can do a book. It's not that complicated. So when it started in my brain, I was going to make a book. I started to testing it on my mom. And she was like, oh, yeah, you can do a book. and at first I thought maybe I'm just a crazy person here thinking I can make a book. But everybody I told it to said, of course, you can make a book. And then I went to a book fair here in Gothenburg. And I tried to find out how do you contact editors. And I realized that if I'm going to make this book and get an editor, I have to make it as finished as possible. So I did everything as I felt it. I did everything, taking photographs and making patterns and everything. And then I went to the editor. It turned out that I wasn't finished. They had a lot of opinions on how to change a few things and stuff like that. But I think it helped me that they really liked my photos of the patterns. You know, I have a big garment and then I have cut it in the middle, and then I put the new baby clothes in the hole. Yeah. So they loved that expression and thought this is really, we can sell this. So I guess my layout and my expression helped me.
Yeah, because I actually had seen you on Instagram, and I've been following you on Instagram for a number of years, because you have this a lot of your images, not all, but a lot of them have this real strong visual identity of, as you said, like an adult garment with part missing, and then the child or baby's garment with it. And it's such a clear expression of your process. It's really clear what's happened here, and it's something that transcends language. You know, anyone could see that and understand. So how did you come to that? I mean, that's genius, but how did you come to that formula for images?
You know, this was kind of many years ago, so I can't remember exactly how I came up with that idea. But when I think about it, I think I have really difficult in throwing things away that I really like. So when I had cut out a dress or something, it really was difficult to throw it away. But I think I had it on my table for a long time and I put it back there. And also I'm like the Instagram generation, so I take photos of everything. And I guess I just saw this could be something.
I remember a friend of mine, my friend Sophie, sent me via Instagram an image of I think it was like a men's shirt that had then been turned into a really cute baby romper, and she was like, look at this, it's amazing. And it was so powerful. It's such a powerful image. But I also like how not only do you then make the garments from the adult garments, but also you've added lots of tips in the book and on the projects that you make of how to customize them or embellish them in interesting ways. Just kind of really simple ideas, but really effective. Like you've got the cute little bow shapes that you've attached to the coat, or the paint splatters. And it's such a simple idea that anyone could do with bits and things that they've got lying around.
Of course,
But it really adds a lot of impact.
Yeah. But that's really what I hope you see when you open the book, that everybody can do this. You can use almost anything. You can try it. And since it's pre-loved clothes, you didn't spend a lot of money when you bought it, because you could have passed it away to charity, or you could have made anything else of it. So it's a low threshold to make experiments on the clothes.
So looking at the garments that you selected for your book, lots of them look in really good condition, but you did mention in the book that you're encouraging people to select garments that maybe don't have any more life left in them, that can't be used in their existing form anymore. So how did you make the decision to choose certain garments for the book?
Yeah. Since I made very many clothes to this book, and I also wanted to look good, it can happen that some other shirts were a bit good quality.
Yeah, a bit too good.
My husband, I owe him some shirts actually. But I also, when I were making these clothes, I were aware that these are photos that somebody looks at and are going to be more inspired if they look good.
Sure.
And when I was doing this in like 2016, it wasn't cool. As I said, it was kind of uncool. Upcycling, like something their mothers and grandmothers did in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Sure. And during 80s and 90s and later, it has been really, I don't know the word, more corny or goofy. So when I did this, I thought if I make it look really good, then I will attract people and moms, especially, that aren't already into upcycling. So if I put on this cute dress from a label called Acne, where some of my shirts are from, maybe it can attract another group of people, and they also start to remake stuff instead of buying new stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, and I think actually now, 10 years later, I think I've been a part of changing this from being goofy to being cool, I think, because I have, many followers, and I have got so much response from my followers that they like the style and are doing so much own upcycling projects.
Absolutely. How does it feel when you see pictures on Instagram or somewhere of people using your patterns or being inspired by your projects?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Of course I do. It's so fun to see that my book has reached people in so many different countries and all around the world.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. I can get a DM from somebody in India or something. It's like across the world, and they're doing my patterns. It's amazing.
Yeah. And I really think that is because you've got that really strong visual impact that as I said before, what you're doing, it transcends language. Anyone could understand and be inspired and see what you've done. And I really love as well the way that you incorporate existing buttons or poppers or the way you bring those in. And I think that's really clever, because often that's really time consuming, isn't it? That's the bit that takes forever.
Exactly, and that's what I'm trying to say, that if you use the buttons and do you call it buttonholes, or what do you call it?
Buttonholes, yeah,
because that's really difficult to sew in your sewing machine. And if you are happy with the garment and then you are making a very bad buttonhole, then you are like throwing the garments away and get angry at it.
Yeah.
But if you use that part from something else, you save so much time and energy, and you can make a whole lot of baby clothes in very short time.
Exactly. If you've only got one nap time, you don't want to be messing around with buttonholes.
No, they are very valuable, those nap times.
Absolutely.
But I think sewing a straight
stitch.
Straight stitch or zigzag stitch. That everybody can do that on every sewing machine.
Absolutely. So what are your favourite garments? What are your favourite adult garments to use when making children's clothing?
I think it is shirt. Oh, this is so difficult, because it's what you call it, stretch fabrics. What you call
jersey?
Elastic fabric. Jersey, yeah. Jersey is just super soft and functional for babies. But I also love shirts. They are cotton is soft in another way, and it's cool in hot days.
Sure.
Shirt is so simple to sew. It's like lying flat on in the sewing machine, and you just iron it. It feels natural, it breathes. I love a shirt.
So now that your children are bigger, I'm assuming 9 and 6, about that age.
Exactly.
Are you still sewing for your children?
Actually, at the moment, I'm actually not sewing that much, but my daughter, she wants me to sew clothes for her dolls. So I
Oh,
started to sewing for her dolls now.
oh, that's
That's
full
really fun.
circle.
I know, that's so fun. And also my son, he's 9 years old. He has actually started his own sewing projects. And that's even more fun. Yeah, I love it. So I can hear him open my drawers and taking out needles and threads and scissors. And I'm like, I wonder what he's doing upstairs with the scissors and the needles. But I really love it. So I let him do it.
Yeah.
So he's making a bag right now.
Is he using reclaimed materials?
Yeah, I have a big stash of reclaimed materials. So he's using a blanket for the inner bag, and the outer fabric is a fabric I bought from IKEA like 20 years ago, but I had it in my stash, and he liked it, so he took it.
Oh, that's so cool. So when you were writing your book, obviously you yourself were on maternity leave. Who did you have in your mind when you were writing it?
Oh, that's a good question. But I think I had myself or people like me in my head, like moms trying to sew while their babies are asleep. But it turns out that quite many grandmothers like my book too,
Oh,
and even older than grandmothers, people who really have taken care of their clothes for their men and themselves for many years since they were starting to sew.
yeah.
So I had really old ladies coming to me when I'm at fairs and stuff like that, and talk about tips. Yeah, I love it. It's so fun. I mean, women have done this all the time in all the years.
Yeah.
Recycling and upcycling, but it's just right now we call it this. I don't think our grandmas called it upcycling, but they did it.
Yeah,
they did it really, and even better than we do.
Yeah. You're like the next generation.
Yeah, exactly.
And then your son is the next generation.
Yeah, I know, because I haven't got that many followers that are men, but I have some. But it's like one from 1,000 men.
Yeah.
But I love every man who do it, because it's so, everybody should do it. It's so easy and fun.
Absolutely. I know you said you're not sewing that much at the moment, but do you ever sew things for yourself?
I do. I have a pattern from Merchant and Mills.
Yeah.
Is that the right name?
Merchant and Mills, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I bought it, and it's lying on my desk, and I'm going to do it one day. It's been lying there for a while, but it's what you call it, jumpsuit, or
is it the Thelma?
Yeah,
I've made that one.
Thelma. Yeah, it's the Thelma. You have, wow.
It's a big project.
I know, that's why I haven't started it, because it feels like if you have to have time and you have to do it correctly, otherwise it's very much fabrics that are going to be wasted.
Yeah.
And did you do it in reused fabric?
No, I actually live in the same county as Merchant and Mills, and I actually bought some Merchant and Mills fabric at the shop.
Oh wow! Oh, that's my dream. Oh, that's my dream to do, but I think it's kind of expensive.
Yeah, it was. It was a very special thing. I actually used that rust colour. I think it's called a sanded twill that the actual sample is made of.
Yeah.
I just loved it. I love that
it's
colour.
It's so beautiful. It's beautiful. I know what you mean. But I have somewhere in my mind, I think I'm going to put some fabrics together from what I have in my stash.
Oh, cool.
But I mean, that's even more complicated to make a complicated pattern in itself. Possibly. To make it in different. Yeah.
I think I saw somebody make that in different denims.
Oh, that would be so
really
beautiful.
Cool.
Different denims.
And in fact, I can't remember their name on Instagram, but I'll check and I'll put it in the show notes. I saw somebody recently made it in a reused tent.
Okay, yeah.
It looks amazing.
Wow.
I'll find the link and I'll put it in the show notes of this episode so you can see.
Wow.
It looks so cool.
Wow.
So they managed to make it out of some reclaimed materials.
Wow, that's exciting. I think I have to do this, Thelma, one day, because if you do it once, you can do it another time. So I think you can make it once in denim and another time in like tent or something, because it's if you've done it once, you can easily do it a second time.
It comes out quite big. So I actually made a size smaller.
Good to know.
Just check the finished garment measurements. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, so that's a project. Have you made any other things for yourself?
I didn't say, but I'm also a painter. I'm an artist too,
Right.
so I have like exhibitions and paintings. I paint a lot on clothes
Oh,
too.
do
So
you?
my latest project in recycling is not actually sewing. I'm painting my snowboard. I did it last year, but the paint didn't stick to it, so it's like going away now.
Yeah.
So I'm ripping it off. So that's one project, renovating my snowboard, and also other things going on in my mind is the painting on my some other kind of clothes I have in my
Yeah.
closet, and I have a white puffer jacket just hanging there. I think it's just like days away from getting
Oh,
paint on
really?
it.
It's like a canvas ready. What are you going to do to it?
Oh, I don't know. I put on Instagram this white puffy jacket, and I asked for some advice. Do you think I'm going to make it in colors or black and white? And I did also one screenshot where I used it as a placard, what you call it, when you are in a demonstration and you have like a white
Like a
board.
placard, yeah.
Exactly. Maybe I could use it to say something about climate or Greta Thunberg or something like that.
Amazing.
And everybody said different kinds. Somebody said, "Oh, I love colors, go for colors," and another said, "Oh, text, just black and white text," and another. So
when you put questions out on Instagram, you always get such a variety, don't you, of responses? You're like, well,
yeah,
that's not
exactly.
helpful.
No, but it's so fun anyway because I like the reaction.
So do you use Instagram for getting inspiration or?
Yeah, daily.
Yeah. Oh, do you?
Yeah, I mean, it's too much inspiration on Instagram, so I can't handle it. It's
Yeah.
that way. I mean, you get an overload of inspiration. It's like if you scroll on the feed, it's like, oh, I want to do so many things. I just have 24 hours in my day. I can't manage.
So who inspires you visually?
Oh, but this is a really difficult question because
Yeah, it's a really difficult question, sorry.
I think when I made a book, I had to choose the style for it. And then I was really concerned about what kind of things do I like and how do I want to express it. And it was really difficult because I like to see that everybody can see their own style in a book. So you don't have to be like, oh, I don't like that style, then I don't buy the book.
Sure.
Or I don't. Yeah, so I would like to have something that attracts people but not exclude anybody. So I'm kind of aware that everybody should wear what they want, like girls and boys could wear dresses and skirts. But my book is somehow kind of looking girlish. But in fact, some of the pictures are on my son, and he had long hair at the moment when I took photos of him. So people think it's a girl, but it's actually a boy in a dress.
Yeah.
Try to like include everybody and be
inclusive.
Yeah, inclusive for all kinds of people and all kinds of styles.
Yeah, fantastic. I love it.
How do I present this book without like hurting anybody's feelings or and being part of the modern world in a right way that is just like nice to everybody and the climate.
I think the fact that you made this book, 5 years ago? A lot of the images are from 5 years ago. They look so fresh and relevant now. It doesn't look in any way like these images are taken 5 years ago. It looks like you took them last week, you know.
Oh, thank you very much, because that's something you fear when you make something, and you feel like I hope this don't like get in out of fashion next year.
Absolutely.
But thank you.
Yeah, I completely know what you mean. I wrote a book. When did I write my book? I think it was in lockdown 2020. I wasn't part of the design team, and I was really scared about what it was going to look like. Yeah, when there's certain trends that you present in a book or something like that, it can then several years later look really dated. And you think, even though the contents is just as important, just as relevant, just as useful, if it doesn't entice people or it makes people think, oh, that's really old-fashioned, then it's such a shame, and it's such a barrier to stop them from enjoying it and using it and finding it useful. But I don't see how that would touch yours, because it looks really relevant and fresh.
Thank you very much.
Would you ever write another book, do you think?
I would love to write another book, but as my days now, I'm working. I'm not on maternity leave anymore.
Yeah.
So I work every day in an architect firm. So I mean, I have to put all my time there. If I could make a book, I would do that. And people ask me, can you make a book about upcycling or pre-loved garments to adults' clothes and not just baby clothes?
Yes, please. Can you do that?
Yeah. Because the baby clothes niche is kind of narrow. It's not that many people sewing, and it's not that many all those people who are sewing baby clothes. But every adult person uses clothes, so I mean, of course. But I think that kind of I'm not educated in sewing, so I mean, I have come up with the baby patterns that I came up with them. So if I'm going to make things for adult, I think you have to be a bit more trained than I am actually. Or maybe I could do very simple things, really easy to sew and wear.
I think you could. I really think you could right now.
Yeah. Thank you.
If you had the time. Honestly, I think with your eye and the ideas that you have for customization, I think are genius. And a lot of the ideas you've got in the book could definitely be translated to look just as good in adult garments.
Thank you.
I think you could. I don't think you need to do any training. I think you could do it right now. So if people want to find more about you, where can they find you?
But that's on Instagram, on Go Recreate. Yeah. So I call the book Go Recreate in Swedish. So when it came out in English, people here in Sweden were like, why didn't you use the great name Go Recreate? Why did I change the name? I don't know. Yeah. I have Googled Go Recreate, and I just find kind of a religious site. So maybe it means something else in English, or I don't know. I came up with it. I thought it was English, but yeah.
Right, so we'll find you Go Recreate on Instagram. And then if people in the UK want to find your book, it's called Restyle and Restitch for Little Ones, 30 Simple Projects from Pre-Loved Clothes.
Yay!
Thank you so much, Linnea, for talking to me. I've really enjoyed chatting with you, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you. I'm so happy that you asked me to participate in this. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, you're so welcome. For more info about the podcast, including show notes for this and every episode, head to checkyourthread.com. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have any comments, questions or ideas for future episodes, please get in touch by emailing zoe@checkyourthread.com or find me on Instagram @checkyourthread. Massive thanks to Patrick Potter for production support, to Sylvia Seller for the awesome logo design, and to Simon at Palm Skin Productions for the music. This ad-free podcast would not be possible without listener support, so if you feel you are able, please consider signing up to the Check Your Thread Patreon. For the equivalent of buying me a coffee each month, you'll be making it possible to continue producing regular episodes. Links can be found in the show notes and on the website checkyourthread.com. I hope you'll listen again next week. Until then, take care. Bye!